Dr. Johannes Schmitt from Bloxxon. He will present us on digital assets, a journey from explosive growth to sustainable adoption.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen. Can you all hear me? Yeah. Hello, my name is Johannes Schmitt. I'm the co-CEO of Bloxxon, a Berlin-based blockchain technology. And thank you very much for having me, to the organizers of the conference. Thank you, Katharina, Steven, and Alex for the great talks, talking about digital assets, a journey from explosive growth to sustainable adoption. And actually, since I submitted my talk proposal, a lot of things changed. So I decided to kind of modify the title a little bit here, because we had as you all know, we had a major crash of the entire asset class on May 19th. So now I want to talk about the journey from panic-driven crashes to sustainable adoption. A similar theme, but coming kind of from the other end of the spectrum. So the idea is really, how can we achieve stability in this emerging asset class, and how can we get more adoption? So very similar to Alex's talk, but also to a few things Katharina mentioned. So let me start. So investor sentiment is essentially right now at rock bottom. So there's this very interesting multifactorial sentiment analysis. It's free. It's provided by alternative.me, and it's very interesting. This is of course a meme. It's not really negative. It's more like in the 20s. It used to be in the 80s a few months ago. So that shows you how much the pendulum has swung from the greed. Everyone wanted to get into fear and terror, right? Everyone now is like, thinking, oh my God, that's never going to work. Crypto's, there's so many problems in this as the crypto people like to say, the FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt around this asset class that's very widespread. And not just that, this is something I personally have been observing for a while. There's also especially in the German-speaking media, there's a lot of negativity that for like a few months was kind of muted by the positivity, right? Because everyone was like excited about the gains, and now it's back, right? So now we have all these obituaries about Bitcoin. I mean, I think there's this website 99bitcoins.com that keeps track of all the obituaries of like how many times Bitcoin has died since its inception, and I think it's over 400 times that serious, not just like some website, like serious media organizations have declared it dead. And so this is Süddeutsche Zeitung, a major daily newspaper. And so this is also a sign that there's a lot of concerns out there in the market. And Binance recently tweeted, I'm giving them full credit here, this beautiful curve. It's essentially just market psychology. And it's a little unclear where we are. I think we're like somewhere at the bottom, and we're probably going to stay close to the bottom for a little longer. But just like Alex, medium term, long term, I'm very, very bullish. I just think there's so much fear, as I said, in this market, that we need to kind of clear it out a little bit. And it might take us a few months, if not half a year. Let's talk a little bit more about the fear, uncertainty, doubt that I mentioned. So there's this perception, I think, still that the digital asset space is like, digital assets are weird and it's a novel asset class. A lot of people don't really understand it. There's like this. It started with the cypherpunks. These guys are really weird, right? So and then can this ever be like? I think there's this lingering question. Can this ever be like a serious asset class, right? And then there's so many things that turn people off, I think, right? Just investors. One is of course the volatility that we've seen, and then there's of course that doesn't. That volatility of essentially all Bitcoin and Ether, but all the other assets as well, does not fit very well with all this talk about, Bitcoin being a digital gold, right? Or, a store of value. Of course, when people say Bitcoin is a great store of value, they mean long-term and not within like 3 months or so, or not even a year, maybe. So that's I think, a common misunderstanding and misconception. And that's also something that certainly scares people off. There's also, of course, and Katharina has talked about this very beautifully. I'm not going to repeat that, but there's the proof of work concerns about negative externalities. That's a big topic, the ESG concern. And there's many things I think Bitcoiners, or not just Bitcoiners, but crypto asset believers can say to that, and they are saying it and putting it out there. It's just about getting heard. It seems like the sentiment is so negative that it's hard to get heard. And then there's, of course, which wasn't really a major topic for a long time, the money laundering aspect of crypto that has kind of eerie timing. There was this Continental Pipeline ransomware attack, which got made a lot of headlines internationally. And so, again, that was muted for a few months, and now it's kind of being washed up again. And people are talking about how Bitcoin's only use case is criminal activity. And then, of course, there's this, which also doesn't help. There's this thing that you have Dogecoin, which, with all due respect, was always meant as a joke. And now, not now, but a few weeks ago, for a while, exceeded the market cap of S&P 500 company, namely Twitter. So that's kind of crazy, right? There's Twitter, whatever you want to think about it, provides a lot of value to a lot of people. Dogecoin, maybe not, maybe it does. But so that also, I think, doesn't really necessarily exude investor confidence. And lastly, as I already said, there's this weirdness about the entire sphere of the crypto sphere. Think about the laser eyes of famous Bitcoiners on Twitter. I mean, I personally love the stuff, but all these memes, but I can see that a lot of more established investors are probably thinking, what is going on here, right? So this is problem here, right? So there's the fear and there's the uncertainty and the doubts. And this might lead to this problem that we don't, the goal being adoption, that we stuck at a certain point of the adoption curve, right? And so what I'm kind of borrowing here is a notion from Everett Rogers, as he lived in the 1960s, and he made this beautiful, came up with this beautiful adoption curve, right? So for consumer adoption, so it's like a bell curve, and there's always the innovators, the enthusiasts who adopt something in the very, very early, and there's the laggards, right? Who the people who still don't have a smartphone. I think in Germany, those would be the laggards, right? And then the innovators are the people who had the Google Glass thing when it came out, and well, it didn't really make it, but that's kind of the idea, right? And so somehow it's hard to get precise numbers about crypto or Bitcoin adoption, but somehow there are some numbers that suggest that we are at 14%, 13, maybe a little more, right? So I think we're exactly at that chasm, and we have to bridge that gap to reach the pragmatists, to get the pragmatists on board. And that is tricky. And, just with this wave of negativity now, it might make it even more harder. And I think to be honest, I think it's a threat to the future of the industry. Ultimately, as I said, I'm very optimistic, but I think there's a lot of effort that has to put into this, right? We don't want crypto assets to become a technology flop. It's not like new technologies are always going to be successful. There are many examples in the history of technology where things did not make it. We just don't know about. We don't talk about them. And I mean, I just mentioned Google Glasses. That was priming, right? That's when is the last time you've heard about Google Glasses? No, they withdrew the product. So maybe not that momentous. No one really cares about that. But we don't want crypto to be the thing that no one, that was an afterthought of history in 10 years. So and again, so that's where we stuck right now, and we have to move ahead, right? And how can we do that? So one thing is, of course, the question. Maybe crypto has to change a little bit, right? The DNA of crypto is, as I said, it's kind of different. Maybe call it weird. And so maybe you could think it needs to become just a little more boring, tame to achieve mainstream consumer adoption. So I originally wanted to conduct a poll. I like to conduct polls, but unfortunately with the remote setting, it's not possible. But does the crypto industry need to become more boring in order to achieve that mainstream consumer adoption? Does it need to do that in order to cross that chasm? And then you could say, no, it doesn't. It's a generational question, right? So generations Z and Y, so Y being the famous millennials, right? They perceive the world in a more different and more playful way. And it's totally okay to have all that, like this meme culture, like these, this Reddit-centric culture. That's part of how they consume information. And why shouldn't this also be information about investing, information about saving, and information about money, right? And then you have, yes, of course, you have the opposing view that no, let's stop making these jokes, right? Let's stop talking about buying meme coins or Dogecoin. Let's just, it's investing is just serious. It's people's money. It's people's savings that are at stake, and stop scaring off the big institutional investors who don't appreciate this type of, conversation and discourse. So those are two options. I think kind of the truth is, as so often, in the middle. I think crypto can accommodate almost everyone, which is beautiful. Like, you want great technologies should always not just appeal to one faction or one group of people. Great technologies should appeal to everyone, regardless if you're politically conservative or progressive. If a technology is only there for, like, say, the progressives and not the conservatives, it already is not a great technology. And what makes crypto great is one of my claims here, is that it appeals to everyone. It can appeal to everyone. Think about it that way. I mean, already now we see this. There's all these different tribes. Human beings are very tribal, right? We all know this. Like, we love to have our little parties, political parties, other parties, right? Trends, certain trends that we follow. And so there's already in crypto, there's so many, and people who are like not, from the outside don't realize this. There's so many tribes. Of course, you have the Bitcoin maximalists who only believe in Bitcoin. Saifedean Ammous is a famous example. He hates everything else, right? I don't know if you've seen that or read that book 3 years ago, The Bitcoin Standard. And then there's the people who like trade everything and hold every new asset, Shiba Inu coin, right? All those joke meme coins. There's people who like have a quasi-religious sentiments around Bitcoin Pizza Day. It was, I think, a few days ago. People celebrated and bought pizzas and everything. And so I think there's such a thriving community, and like, again, appealing to the conservative, the more progressive people. And I think that's really what makes the technology, again, that network effect that Alex actually spoke about, so successful ultimately. And I think we just have to carry on there and not just make it, Bitcoin is only for libertarians or Bitcoin is only for young people. No, it can be a technology for everyone. Let me talk a little bit about Bloxxon, because you may be wondering why, well, what's Bloxxon doing? And so one thing, we're doing quite a few things, but one thing we're doing is, and what I think is also should be the DNA of the company, is that we want to be at the forefront of innovation, but we also want to help the incumbents, the people and organizations who do not yet understand crypto very well or blockchain very well, to help them transition to that new world, to make them, I think that Stephen mentioned this idea of future-proofing a business. That's really what we want to do. And we're developing a number of different projects. We're like products, we're a startup, so we need a few more months to cater to that. One thing specifically that I want to mention is our upcoming wealth management product, where we are really targeting investors who have a little bit of just like a little concerned about this transition, right? There's a lot of risk here, and maybe a little older, and they do want to get exposure and direct exposure to these leading crypto assets, and that's something we want to help these people with in the traditional wealth management environment that they're used to invest in crypto. And then like for businesses, because I don't think I mentioned that we were like specifically targeting businesses, B2B. We're a B2B solutions company. We also want to help businesses adopt blockchain and crypto or digital assets technologies. And we think there's many reasons to enter the world of blockchain and crypto now, and they should go beyond FOMO. FOMO is an important part of it, of course, but there is also there's also other reasons why you should join the industry, and maybe it's worth looking at numbers, because we believe that in 10 years, and I think everyone at Bloxxon and also probably many people at this conference have this vision that in 10 years, a lot of things have moved onto the blockchain or distributed ledger technology, and a lot of things are tokenized, right? Essentially everything. So the entire financial services market is going to be digitized, or in some way or other. And so as a business, it's just really about survival. It's not just about, oh, it's cool and my colleagues and other competitors are talking about it, so I want to join the party. It's not the FOMO. It's just like, I need this for my business. And let's look at very tentatively at some numbers, as I said. So it's really hard to estimate what the entire digital asset services market is, what the size is. I kind of, looked at some numbers that I know, and then kind of extrapolated from that and got like roughly $10 billion in 2020. And right now, it's just the crypto native companies like Coinbase or Binance, they just own a huge share of that. Right. And then there's like these decentralized protocols like Uniswap and these DeFi protocols that are like having kind of conquering a growing share of that market. And then there's, of course, very interesting. This is really the demographic we're focusing on. There's these institutions, these legacy institutions, who are also entering the market. And a few have already done that. Others are kind of watching from the sidelines and holding out. And BNY Mellon is one example. That was also, I think, mentioned in Stephen's presentation. One of the bigger names, I think, internationally that has done it has said, okay, we will offer Bitcoin to our clients, right? And so this is great. I mean, and if you fast forward to 2026 or 5-6 years in the future, the relative market shares, I think, are going to change a little bit, because I think these decentralized protocols are going to take over more of that entire pie, the entire cake. But the institutions, the legacy institutions, are still going to maintain, even if it's small, are going to maintain a small share of it. But the interesting thing is, it's a small share of a much bigger pie. Is going to be probably is going to be a 10x growth, if not more, in the next 5-6 years of this entire industry. And so, as a legacy institution, you really have to wonder: do I want to be part of? Do I want to be part of this? There's enormous benefits here to be reaped by making that transition now, versus waiting 2021 versus waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because the BNY Mellons of this world are going to capture a lot of market share. And as a business, you do not want to be left out of this. So with that thought, I'm going to conclude this presentation. I think I have a little time left, maybe for questions. So thank you very much.
Exactly. We have received one little question and have a bit time left for you in our Telegram channel, which you can go on through our website and our agenda, and there is a link, and then you can join our Telegram group as well and give us some questions there. So the question is, what do you think the whole meme coin narrative will continue, or in the medium and long term?
That's a great question. I think with the current market sentiment, I don't think it will be able to continue, because there's so many foundational problems, right? And so many things are being put into questions. The ESG narrative is super, super strong. So I just don't think there's room for it to continue as it was in like March or April. So I think I'm kind of, the party's over, would be my answer here.
Okay, thank you.